Welcome to the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt. I'm your host, Trevor Junt. On today's show, we'll have Ryan Wasson, we'll have Karrington Kincaid, and we'll have Danny Flynn. On this show, we talk about all the NFL games that happened in the weekend. No NFL game happened this past weekend. I guess the Pro Bowl, if you count it. But the big one's coming up. The Super Bowl's coming up next week. So in this show, we'll be previewing the Super Bowl. We'll be diving into our predictions and our score predictions. And we're going to have a good time just talking about some football. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, Ryan, hop into your game. Let's hop into the Super Bowl. It's the only game, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me here, Trevor. So we got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Who would have thought that the Bengals would have been in the position that they're in right now, especially coming off of just a horrendous coaching stint from Marvin Lewis, who, as a frame of reference, was the head coach for the Bengals for 16 seasons, went 0-7 in the playoffs. But now they've got a guy in Zach Taylor.
I'll stop you right there. Mediocre. Not horrendous. Mediocre.
Okay. It wasn't the best, to say the least. But now they got Zach Taylor. I want to tell you a little bit about Zach Taylor here for a minute. For those of you who don't know, this is a guy that came out of the Sean McVay coaching tree for the very brief stint that he was there. Look at the journey of Zach Taylor. He was the assistant at Texas A&M for 4 years. Hired as a QB coach for the Dolphins in 2012. He became their offensive coordinator in 2015, and then he was hired with Sean McVay's first offensive staff back in 2017. Now, he became the head coach of the Bengals just recently in 2019, and got to give credit to Bengals owner Mike Brown. He stuck with them. He was not afraid to commit, and now it's paid off with Taylor having won now 3 playoff games in his 3rd season at the helm with the Bengals. So, obviously, Taylor's doing something right, where Lewis couldn't quite maybe get the Bengals where he needed to be, who had a rough time there. You got to give a lot of credit for Taylor really getting the Bengals to this point. And, of course, that helps when you've got a guy like Joe Burrow at the helm, coming as the draft pick for the Bengals not too long ago, a first-round pick. It'll be him facing Matthew Stafford, and that's a pretty fun matchup to see. You look at Matthew Stafford in a position where he was such a great quarterback on the Lions for a long time, where he was really struggling just in a system that never really seemed to work for him. He had the skills, he had the tools, he had what he needed to use, but he just never really had the help around him to succeed. You look at Joe Burrow, second-year QB, just lights out here. Joe Shiesty, as we're all calling him nowadays. So
Joe Burrow?
That's right. So, I mean, you got a battle here between 2 former number 1 overall draft picks. So there's already a lot of talk around that for sure. Stafford's really come into his own. You're looking at a guy with a QB rating of 96 and above his last 3 seasons in the NFL. That's production for you right there, especially in one of those seasons, of course, coming out of Detroit, as well with his second season here with the Rams. Now, along with completing 67% of his passes for nearly 4,900 yards and 41 TDs, I think Stafford's going to be a heavy favorite. And I think the experience that he's had in the league will certainly give him an edge over Burrow coming to this. But with Burrow, on the other hand, he comes into this game, it's only his 2nd season as a quarterback in the NFL, but his numbers prove that he's deserving of this position. You're talking 34 TDs, completing 70% of his passes for just about 4,600 yards, and you're talking a QB rating of 108.3 this season. That's very impressive. And of course, you got weapons like Jamar Chase at the hand, and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd to kind of help with the load, because of course you got the built-in chemistry for Burrow with Jamar Chase coming out of LSU that way. But it's going to be interesting to kind of see if the experience for Stafford will kind of outdo what Burrow brings in. Perhaps kind of lacking some of that playoff experience. He may not have kind of that veteran presence to kind of back up on like Stafford's kind of had in the past. So that's going to be, I think, an interesting thing to look at there.
Before we move on, so question. So did Matt Stafford had a 96, like over 96 QBR, is that right?
Yeah.
Was it QBR or passer rating?
QB rating, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then passer rating was Joe Burrow with 106.
108.3, actually.
108.6.
Yeah.
108.3. There we go. Sorry, go ahead, buddy.
No, you're fine. I think, and yeah, that's going to be something really to focus on. And another thing I want to focus on here is this Rams defense, which has been kind of back and forth this season. But I think you still have to go old reliable here with the pass rush, this very intimidating pass rush for the Rams. You got Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and Greg Gangs, who's really kind of turned into a bit of an X factor recently and kind of putting a lot of pressure on Burrow to really get rid of the ball quick. And I'll be interested to see whether or not the Bengals will kind of draw up a game plan that kind of is designed around maybe shorter pass plays for Burrow to get the ball out quicker, because we've seen a lot of pressure from the Rams in the playoff games that have led them up until this point being here into the Super Bowl. And so I think with that, especially defensively, I think a big matchup that we'll want to focus on is, especially in the secondary, not to give to look back there as well, between Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey in particular. You're talking arguably the best all-around defensive back in Jalen Ramsey and one of the best rookies in NFL history in Jamar Chase. You're looking at Chase, he's got over 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns in the regular season, and within his first 3 playoff games, he's accrued 279 yards. So you're talking a difference maker out there offensively for the Bengals, which is what they're going to need. Try to get as many weapons as they can use here in the Super Bowl to give Burrow as many options as he can to throw to.
So who wins that battle before we move on?
Oh.
Who wins that battle? Do you think Jamar Chase wins that battle, or do you think Jalen Ramsey will lock him up?
I don't know. It's been kind of it's a give and take here and there. It's very similar, I think, with the Burrow and Stafford dynamic, where you've got the experience in Ramsey. We've seen what he can do. He's proven himself time and time again. But Jamar Chase is still kind of in that window. You're looking at his second season here, and you've got the chemistry though between him and Burrow. So I think that kind of gives him a bit of an edge because he knows Burrow, maybe not as much as say Ramsey would. So I don't know. I think you can really go either way. But if I had to put money on it, I'd go with Ramsey in the end.
Okay.
To really pull it out, coming out the clutch there for the Rams there in the second.
By the way, I do want to say Jamar Chase is like our age. He's 21. He's just a year older than us. He was born in 2000.
That's hard to
so
believe.
A guy that was born in 2000 is tearing up the league for 1,400 yards in the regular season. Like, that's wild. Sorry.
Oh, I think that's absolutely a kind of a weird concept to kind of wrap your mind around when you think about it. So a guy our age making that kind of money and doing things that we could never dream of. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, just mossing those guys and dominating. Yeah, dude, my goodness.
Absolutely. I think another key thing, though, to kind of talk, again, I'm talking a lot about the Rams, but there's so many things to talk about with them because I think when you look at LA, they're in win-now mode. Of course, they're one of the biggest sporting markets in the U.S., and they're signing in Matthew Stafford to kind of get rid of the whole Jared Goff situation when he was kind of falling off a little bit. You know, it was kind of expected, I think, to a certain degree because you've got guys like Odell Beckham Jr. and again, you've got so many offensive weapons that they're kind of giving here Stafford to try to do whatever they can to get as far as they can. And if you look at this Rams team, this season for them really emulates that of the Buccaneers. If you think about it last season when they won the Super Bowl, you pick up the veteran QB, you add a star wide receiver midseason, you have a star-studded roster that tends to kind of be overlooked going into the playoffs. And imagine that you get to host the Super Bowl in your home stadium, SoFi. All that's missing for the Rams is a win. So it's kind of interesting how it kind of bears so many similarities with the Bucs and how they brought Brady in and, well, he took him to the promised land. So we'll see if that kind of works again for the Rams here, if they can get one last push or if the young up-and-comers in the Bengals can maybe pull it off. So
I understand that comparison, but I just think we need to slow down a little bit there. I mean, Tom Brady and Matt Stafford aren't exactly like equals in my opinion. Well, I mean, not in my opinion, just objectively. But you know, I understand what you're saying, but I just don't trust Stafford as much as I trust Brady. And then on the Bengals side, like the Bengals are just so ahead of schedule. Like you should not be doing this with a rookie wide receiver and a sophomore quarterback. I mean, these guys are 25. I think Joe Burrow's 25. Jamar Chase is 21. Joe Mixon's probably like 23 or 24. I mean, these guys are young and they're playing really well. They made like a bunch of like acquisitions in the free agency this offseason. I think it was like Mike Hughes, or I'm sorry, Mike Hilton, Trey Hendrickson, and Eli Apple. Those guys made a difference on the roster. So I think it's interesting to see how the Bengals have gone from literally like worst to like, I mean, one of the worst teams in the league to one of the best teams in the league. And then the Rams, I mean, their defense is just insane, star-studded, like you said. You said all the stars. I mean, gosh, that D-line is terrifying. And if I'm the Bengals, especially with my offensive line, my like interior offensive line, especially going against Aaron Donald, and that defensive line is terrifying. That's what I think.
Absolutely. I think with the little bit of time that we have here, I think a couple key points here for I think each team to try to win the game. For the Bengals, I think for them to win this, they got to focus on offense, which I know sounds crazy. You know the phrase defense wins championships. I still stand by that. But for the Bengals here.
Hold up. I'll stop you right there. I disagree with that. I don't think, the whole thing defense wins championships is way overrated, okay? There was one or like a few moments where defenses have won championships, but really it's historical offenses that win championships, okay? Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, but to not so much to counter, but I think to kind of add to your point, I think we've seen a shift in the focus of offense here. The NFL has changed and evolved over time, and I agree. I think with where the NFL has changed and football in general has changed, we have seen a much more of an emphasis on that and how kind of offense has really kind of taken over.
Oh, absolutely. In this new era, absolutely, yeah.
I think with the rare exception being, well, the Seahawks Super Bowl win back in 2013. They held the Broncos to only 8 points the entire game. Legion of Boom, #1 ranked defense. That's really kind of the last time I can think of about that. But I will concur with your point there in that, yes, there is more of a focus
2015 Broncos.
Absolutely. But I think for the Bengals, it's going to be all about the offense. They're ranked 7th in points scored and 13th in yardage this season, which isn't bad, but considering they have a middle-of-the-road defense, I think their entire offense, you have to do all the talking with Burrow. If they didn't already have enough pressure on him coming in as a sophomore QB, as you've noted, I think basically the entirety of the Bengals winning this game kind of comes down to their offense really showing up. And I think if you're the Rams, it's the opposite. You've got all the weapons offensively. Again, OBJ, and now you got Cooper Kupp, the All-Pro wide receiver as well. But now you've got, of course, Stafford you're working with. But I think for the Rams, you can work with that offensively, but defensively, the numbers really are representative of how effective this defense has been, especially with the pass rush. You look at guys like Aaron Donald. He had 12.5 sacks this season. Leonard Floyd had 9.5 and a solid effort from, again, Von Miller and Greg Gangs with that pass rush. I know they didn't get to Garoppolo when they faced the Niners, but again, if they can be an intimidating presence, if they can kind of get Burrow, maybe he can get in his head a little bit so he's kind of maybe doesn't quite know what to do in particular situations, that could give him an edge. Maybe even psychologically bring it down all the way to that point, kind of the intangibles of the game, so to speak, to focus on. So, and you look at Pro Football Reference, the Rams were ranked as a middle-of-the-road defense, but from what I've seen, I think they're much more effective than what the numbers have shown.
So, and also PFF, like, yes, they do have some good statistics. They do have some good, just proven facts. Like, the way they use analytics for, like, decision-making is awesome. But their scoring system for defense, or just offensive line as well, is pretty rough. So I don't know. I agree with you. Like, not all the numbers tell the story.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like what the coaches see on the field can be different than what the numbers might say. And of course, it's the debate of just like, well, do coaches focus more on the numbers, or do they focus more on kind of what they see on the field and what they've kind of done in practice and all that? And that's a debate that goes across a lot of sports. I've seen analysts on basketball talk about the same exact thing when it comes to players as well. And so, but yeah, I think having said all of that, the score prediction, which you've all been waiting for, I'm sure, it's going to be a high-scoring affair between both teams. I'm going to go 35-28, Rams win it.
Okay.
Rams get the job done at home in SoFi.
What, do you think LA just blows up? Do you think they have a party?
I don't see why not. LA's a party town, right?
Absolutely.
I can totally see it happening.
Well, cool, man. Anything else you want to say about this game? Anything like important on your mind?
I'm just really happy to kind of, I guess, really see. I mean, I think America, well, at least me anyways, I can't speak on behalf of America, but I think everyone really loves both of these QBs. You look at a guy like Matthew Stafford and the story that he's had coming from the Lions all the way up until where he is now. It's kind of a feel-good moment for him to finally be in this position where it just feels like he's kind of always had this moment in him the whole time. He just never really had the pieces around him to kind of get to this point. So I think, and then with Joe Burrow as well coming into this position, just kind of this incredible story coming out of LSU and him kind of just taking off out of nowhere. And of course, this leading the Bengals, a team that no one would have thought would have been in the Super Bowl for the longest time. I can't think of how long it's been since the Bengals have been in a Super Bowl.
88.
88, yeah. So it's been a good minute. It's been a good minute for sure. So it's hard to it's nice to kind of be able to root for both of these QBs, to kind of see them kind of put their best out there. And whichever team wins, I'm looking to hopefully see an amazing QB duel out there between Stafford and Burrow.
Well, Ryan, thank you for just spouting that knowledge on us. Thank you for talking about the game. The Super Bowl's a fun game, possibly the most fun game to talk about. So I appreciate you coming on the show. You did a really good job, man, and I appreciate you.
Well, once again, yes, thank you so much for having me, Trevor.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. I don't know why I'm saying this now. I'm probably gonna cut that. So. Yeah, we just cut right here. You know what? We're keeping this in. I don't care. We're going to cut right now. We're going to go to Karrington. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt. I'm your host, Trevor Junt. This is Karrington Kincaid. He knows his stuff about football, and we're going to go into the Super Bowl. So let's talk about the Super Bowl, man. Let's just see what you got.
Man, well, this is the not the exact matchup I predicted because I had the 49ers winning last week against the Rams. I thought they were gonna be more physical in that game, but the Rams ultimately beat them in the fourth quarter. But this game is gonna be reminiscent of a Super Bowl that we saw 20 years ago prior in Super Bowl 36 with the Patriots and the Rams. I've been comparing the Patriots and the Bengals for a while now. They both have similar traits in terms of like how they got there, especially being the team that no one thought would make it this far against a superior roster in the Rams, knowing the talent they have currently. You know, with the Rams today having Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd on defense, Jalen Ramsey in the secondary, a few other pieces that are just completely just terrors on defense. So you can't really beat those guys the way you want to. And then obviously with the Bengals, who also have a talented roster, but not nearly as talented as the Rams, having good offensive weapons like Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins, you know, on the wide receiver side with Joe Burrow being the quarterback. And it's going to be a great matchup. I think it'll be closer than people expect. Both these coaches know each other. Zach Taylor was a disciple of Sean McVay a few years ago before he was the head coach, so they know each other very well. So they're going to run a very similar offense in terms of like schemes and stuff. So it'll be more of a chess match than anything, just like exciting from the talent side. So, but I'm expecting a good game.
I do too. I do too. So I see the similarities between the 2001 Patriots and the 2022 Bengals. I see like the sophomore quarterbacks. I see.
Oh yeah.
I see the talent on defense. You know, the only like differences I see is like I think that Joe Burrow is like a more talented quarterback than Brady was at the time, and then I think Joe Burrow has a lot more like weapons.
Weapons to have, yeah. Weapons.
And then one big difference is Zach Taylor and Bill Belichick. That's like the
huge difference
in my opinion. Yeah.
And
we'll see how Zach Taylor is. I mean, what I've seen from him is he's a good coach, not great. Maybe he could change my mind.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It's been rough for a while. And then I think really Joe Burrow was like kind of their savior.
Oh, for sure.
Like it sounds silly. Sometimes they like, okay, so do you know like anything about like analytics within football?
Yeah, for sure.
So like analytics say throw the ball on early downs.
Mm-hmm.
But what the Bengals have done is run the ball on first and second and play hero ball with Joe Burrow on third down.
For sure.
So I mean that's some terrible coaching.
Yeah, for sure.
There. But yes, yeah, I know what you're saying. There are comparisons, and I think like even though Zach Taylor obviously is different than Bill Belichick, I think it's a good comparison.
Oh, for sure.
Because this could be a dynasty.
It could be, and especially within playing the exact same team that the Patriots did that kind of started their run. One thing that
oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that, man.
And
wow.
And one of the biggest comparisons between Joe Burrow and Brady is that they both played the Raiders in the very first playoff game, with Brady playing the Raiders, thus the tuck rule with Charles Woodson and that team. Raiders team was really good back then.
Did he fumble that, by the way?
Well, they said he did, but I mean, I guess it really wasn't a fumble. They clarified that on 30 for 30 with Brady and Woodson having a little interview, so they got to clarify that it wasn't a fumble.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, by rule, yeah, I know.
It looked like it. Hey, man, listen, if you look, I want everybody to look at the video. Y'all tell me if this was a fumble or not, man. I mean, Brady, and that's what kind of started the tuck rule. It took a long time for it to review, and they ended up calling it not a fumble. So. And that's what kind of, that's what kind of started the Patriots' run. So, I mean, you can call it lucky or not, but hey, Brady ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So,
oh, man.
I mean, it is what it is. But ironically, they both played the Raiders in their very first playoff game. And in both of the playoff games I saw from the Bengals is reminiscent of that Super Bowl with Brady. I believe the Super Bowl was 17-17 at one point in the fourth quarter, and I remember John Madden saying it wasn't a good idea for Brady to drive down the field. He wanted them to go to overtime, be safe, and Brady just kept doing his thing and got down the field and ended up sealing the win with Adam Vinatieri's game-winning field goal. And reminiscent of the Bengals, they have Evan McPherson, and he's been making so many great clutch kicks throughout the playoffs, and he ended up winning both the Titans and the Chiefs game with his game-winning field goals, and that's what ended up getting them to where they are today, which is in the Super Bowl. So a lot of crazy comparisons between the two, but That's what makes it exciting. That's what football. That's why the NFL is so great, and that's what we love about it.
Yeah.
So, we're excited for this, man, for sure.
I agree, man. Here's some stats that I noticed too that is just like crazy similar.
Yeah.
Because I know it feels like the Rams are the more talented team because they probably are the
Yeah,
more
no
talented
doubt,
team.
no doubt.
But their stats are just like crazy similar. So
Yeah.
okay, so it's so points per game, 27.1. That the Rams are 7th in the league. The Bengals are 27.1. They're 7th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are 18th in the league in opponent point per game. That's 21.9. The Bengals are 16th with 22.1. Yards per game, 20 for the Rams, 287.8. That's 5th in the league. The Bengals, 282.7. That's 7th in the league. And then, I mean, like some of these stats are just crazy similar and like hard to deny, you know. So yeah, I think even though the Rams might feel like the more talented roster, I think this is a lot more equal than people like want to say.
Well, that's one thing people look at is just the talent level. You know, you think about Von Miller, you think about Aaron Donald versus the poorest offensive line of the Bengals.
Yeah, does that defensive line scare you like a lot if you're the Bengals? By the way.
I mean, if I was Joe Burrow, I wouldn't be scared because I know him personally that he has all the confidence in the world in his offensive line and just his team in general. So he knows that he wouldn't be there without his offensive line, especially with him sealing the blocks for the game-winning throw to I believe Jamar Chase to the right sideline in the Titans game. The offensive line blocked great that time against that defense that gave up 9 sacks against them, and also driving down the field after the interception by Von Bell in the Chiefs game. The offensive line did a great job blocking, drove down the field, and got a game-winning field goal. So I believe this can be a very similar scenario, all of those two games combined. It's all just going to come down to them playing a solid run game, using Joe Mixon a lot. Because that's one thing the Rams haven't been completely good at, stopping the run consistently. They have great pass rushers, but run block shedding from the run, I mean, they haven't been able to do as well as rushing the passer. So obviously you might have a little bit of concern, but knowing Joe Burrow, knowing how confident he is in his team and how confident he is in general, I'm sure they'll find a way to get through that line and look past it and get a possible victory in the Super Bowl.
So they're allowing 4 yards per carry, which is like 5th worst in the league.
It's worth, yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe Mixon is one of those running backs that gets better as the game goes on. So.
And they've allowed the 6th most rushing yards.
Yeah. So, and that's one thing people have to realize. There's more than just focusing on the Rams. You got to make sure you account for all the talent on the football field. There's 11 men on both sides. You have to make sure each of them gets accountability for what they do. And as well, I mean, as far as what the Bengals have shown, the fight that they've shown in all their playoff games, no lead is safe against them, no matter what the score is. You remember the score was 21-3 at one point in the Chiefs game. They rallied back to tie the game up in overtime at 24-24, and ended up winning the game in overtime. So one thing the Rams are going to have to do if they want to win this game, they're going to have to start off strong and play solid defense. Because if you don't, and if you keep getting Joe Burrow opportunities, very much like Brady, he will find a way to shred that defense to get a win. So it's all about being smart, and it's gonna be a good game. But for me, I believe in Burrow. I believe Burrow's the answer to that team, and he's gonna be the X factor in the Bengals winning.
So the thing with Joe Burrow too is like you said it. I mean, when they're down points, and they're having a rough time, if he's getting sacked 9 times, he is not shaken.
He still makes it happen.
Yeah, he's not shaken. Literally, Joe Cool is like so accurate.
So accurate.
I mean, people think about people were like saying like Joe Cool, it was Joe Namath back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
Joe Burrow's better than Joe Namath. I mean, I'll just say it right now.
For sure. Well, you think about every person named Joe, or most people that's named Joe in the NFL, they've won a Super Bowl. Joe Namath, Joe Montana, there's a few.
So
a few of them. So
there was a stat I had I think a week ago. So so national championship, Super Bowl. Yeah, so he would be the 3rd quarterback ever. No, here it is. He'd be the 3rd quarterback ever to win a national championship and a Super Bowl, and that's Joe Namath, Joe Montana, and then could be him.
And some will argue that Joe Burrow has possibly played in more big games than Matthew Stafford, including the college.
I'm sorry. I want to take back my hot take about Joe Namath, okay? Joe Namath is overrated, I'll tell you that. Okay? He's overrated, but Joe Burrow is not better than Joe Namath at this moment. We're way too early. I'm sorry. That was a hot take. We don't usually do that on this show. I'd like to take that. I'd like to rescind that and just say I'm sorry to Mr. Namath. You're good. And go ahead, buddy.
That's perfect. But personally, a lot of people would say that, or I've heard a lot of talk that Joe Burrow's been in a lot more big games than Matthew Stafford combined in the playoffs and with like college in the NFL.
Okay.
With Joe Burrow playing in 7 total. In those 7 playoff games, he's passed for a total of 24 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, which is a very, very good passer rating. And he's made it happen. He's been clutch in those moments. He knows what it's like. And so and that's all of why he's so calm in the big moments. I mean, even if you look at his interviews, even now, he had a Super Bowl interview this morning, and he even said that his goal is to eliminate all the distractions and making sure no one's, going to throw them off of their focus of trying to win this game. So he's thinking well beyond his years, and he even gave the younger players advice saying, work in silence and don't let anybody.
I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, exactly, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You control your own stuff and you control your own destiny, and prove it to them. Let them see it. Don't tell them. And that's thinking well beyond his years. So his mentality is just off the charts, and that's why he's so admired by not only the Bengals but a lot of people nationally like Joe Burrow as well. They love his confidence. They love watching him play. So that's a couple things about Joe too. So Joe, cool man. Joe Burrow, that's the dude right there. So it's gonna be fun. And I like that. I'm not trying to be biased, but that's just kind of how I see the Super Bowl going down. But no matter who wins, it's gonna be a great game.
So we keep talking about like Joe Burrow and then the Bengals offense. So the Rams offense is just equally stacked.
For sure.
So let's see, we have Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, Eli Apple, Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Mike Hilton. Well, what do you think? How do you think that defense plans to stop LA? And do you think it's possible?
I think it's possible. I think they're going to have to go with the scheme that they did against the Chiefs, going with man coverage and doing 3-man rushes. They're going to have to drop back 8 because they have a lot of weapons. The Rams do with Tyler Higbee if he's healthy. They have Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp. And people keep forgetting Robert Woods has been out for that team. And if he was there, it'd be a lot harder.
Van Jefferson is questionable.
And Van Jefferson as well. So. They're going to have to drop 8, I think, at some point in this game. They can try out the zone scheme that they did in the first half against the Chiefs and see how it works. But that's one thing Matthew Stafford isn't. He isn't as elusive as Patrick Mahomes, so he can't run around as much and make crazy plays. Can't bend his body all sorts type of contortions in any way. So that's one thing the Bengals definitely have to do. They can also look back at the old film they have against the Rams, playing them in London a few years ago. Although the quarterback was different, they still had the same coach,
the offense,
same exact scheme. So they can look back at that with them having Andy Dalton at the time. So there's a lot of stuff that they can use.
Cooper Kupp, do you think?
Oh yeah, they're gonna have to double cover.
Over under, okay.
Yeah.
130 yards. You think over or under?
I'm gonna go under.
Under? Okay.
Under.
Wow, you think that'd be a really good defensive effort.
I think, and that's one thing the Bengals have shown. They've shown opportunity on that defense. They're very opportunistic and great playmakers. I know they've had at least one turnover in each of the playoff games, and they just made it happen. And they're going to make another turnover happen in this game too. It's destined for that to happen. So whether they're double covering him and stuff or whatever. They'll make something happen, and they'll make a play when they need to. So.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a turnover decide this game, to be honest.
Oh.
So let's get your game score. So what's your prediction on this game? What's your game score?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go 27-24, and I think the game will end in Joe Burrow's hand, driving down the field in the fourth quarter with about 26 seconds left, and I think they'll take the game-winning field goal for the win. So and they're not going to do the thing that the Buccaneers did, letting up a single high safety with Cooper Kupp running wide open. I think there'll be a little bit of time on the clock, and I think the Bengals defense will lock up and seal the victory.
27-24. That's a good. I think I think this game will definitely be close.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that's a pretty good prediction.
Familiarity is a big key because, like I said, both these coaches know each other, and you can even tell in the 49ers and the Rams matchups, both coaches know each other. They both were on the same staff, so you can see why the games are so close at the end.
Yeah.
So that's always gonna play a role no matter what. So you'll see it come February 13th on Sunday.
Well, cool, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We
man.
had you back again, obviously, because you know your stuff.
I appreciate
we
it.
enjoy having you. And I'm sure that they enjoy watching you, too.
I appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate the love.
Thank you for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure.
I think we'll cut it right here. Again, he has the Bengals 27-24, and we'll cut it right here. Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt. Of course, I'm your host, Trevor Junt. We've been over this a few times. Get that through your heads. This is Danny Flynn. Danny has been a regular guest on the show. He knows what he's talking about when we talk about the NFL. So, Danny, let's hop into your Super Bowl prediction and your Super Bowl preview, man.
All right, let's look at it. So we got, obviously, the Rams versus the Bengals. I personally am very excited about this Super Bowl. I think it's two very young and dynamic teams, lots of offensive firepower, and I think we could see just about anything on Sunday. A key matchup for us to look at is obviously Jamar Chase versus Jalen Ramsey. Jamar has been mostly quiet during this postseason, but that's also due to double coverage and just by the nature of that, that helps the Bengals. Now they got other targets and other weapons that free up as a result of that. On the flip end of that, though, Cooper Kupp versus Chidobe Awuzie. Chidobe Awuzie. The Bengals don't have the same sort of star corner that the Rams do, and so that matchup is very difficult for them. Cooper Kupp, 145 receptions, 1,497 yards, and 17 touchdowns this season, ranked first in all those categories. The Bengals are going to need to hold him to under 80 yards and a score if they want any chance at winning this. If he just runs rampant on them, it's going to be a tough one.
The thing with Cooper Kupp, too, is it's not just like breakaway speed, too. It's like with Tyreek Hill, you can just put a safety over top, and then you're good. Well, you're kind of good. He's still Tyreek Hill. But with Cooper Kupp, it's routes that are just all over the place, you know? And then you look at players, so, it's not quite the same, but Travis Kelce runs routes similar to Cooper Kupp. No, he's not as fast as Cooper Kupp, obviously. But just last week, Kelce dropped 95 and a touchdown on him with 10 receptions. So that's where I'd be kind of spooked out if I was Cincinnati. And even Tyreek had 7, 78, and a touchdown. So yeah, I don't know. I think that is a weak point, and I think the Rams will probably exploit it.
Yeah. I think another big factor that we need to look at is the quarterback pressure that both teams apply. Joe Burrow this past season, most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He was sacked 51 times. And the Rams' pass rush is ranked third in the league for most sacks this season at 50. Having Aaron Donald and Von Miller run at you is probably a pretty scary sight. And so the Bengals O-line really need to show up and protect their quarterback if they want to win.
I do not want that running at me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, me neither, man. That would be terrifying.
Oh, man.
If we look at, I thought this was an interesting stat. Joe Burrow's pass rating when he's under pressure during the regular season, 94.6, which is third in the league. But during the playoffs, it's been 40.0, which
really?
is, obviously a very steep drop-off. And so if the Rams are able to effectively pressure him and he doesn't change sort of his under pressure performance this game, that will be a serious issue.
No, I can believe that, but also I think how much does the Titans game skew that stat? You know? Because what he was pressured more than 10 times and sacked 9 times. Geez.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. There's probably a disparity between the 96 that he had in the regular season and then for what he had 40 something in the postseason. But yeah, I do think that game will probably just kind of dilute that stat a little bit. But yeah, the thing with elite quarterbacks is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. Those quarterbacks are the quarterbacks that you don't bring blitzes on. Patrick Mahomes. You want as many guys in coverage. The whole thing with blitzing is you bring another guy. I'm just explaining this like you guys are children, but I feel that's the best way to go. You bring somebody into the backfield. You're trying to bring somebody in the backfield by bringing them out of coverage and towards the quarterback. So that takes away players in the secondary, which means that there's weak points in the secondary, and the elite quarterbacks can exploit those weak points. So, I wouldn't pressure Joe Burrow too much with blitz, at least. I think that if I'm the Rams, my defensive line is good enough to get its own pressure. What Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, those guys are terrifying.
Yeah.
So,
And they definitely have the edge over the Bengals O-line, so
yeah.
it definitely wouldn't be in their best interest
I
to
think,
blitz a lot. I don't
so
think.
even like they're missing either the right or left tackle. I don't remember. Riley Reef is like their left tackle.
Okay.
And they're missing him. He injured his ankle, I think, about a month ago, and he's not going to play in the Super Bowl either. Yes.
Very unfortunate. The Rams defense, though, has looked pretty good. I mean, they've got one or more takeaways in 10 straight games now, and their defense, they allow for a high completion percentage, but they also have a very low like yards per catch statistic, and so. They allow the ball to get moved a little bit down the field, but they play safe defense. They don't give the offense a lot of room to have to big plays.
So we're going back to the Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase thing. I feel like that's some of like the big news with this week. What do you think happens there? Like, who do you think gets the best of each other?
I mean, I hope Jamar Chase does, but I have a feeling that he's going to be more or less shut down this game. I think that T. Higgins and the Bengals running core, I think that they're going to be dumped down a lot of short passes with Chase being covered up. Ramsey also got exposed again in the Bucs game. The last career touchdown pass of Tom Brady, all the way down to Mike Evans, and so I mean he's vulnerable. It's possible for him to get beat on a route run, and I mean if someone's going to do it, Jamar Chase is as good a person as any to do it.
So it's something I haven't seen before in my lifetime, besides like looking at like I guess highlight reels. But the way that he like moves his body pre-break is something like of mastery. Like Jamar Chase, I guess Julio Jones is similar in a way, but it's like just a little movement. So if like I turn my shoulders just like a little bit this way, it looks like I'm gonna break this way, you know. Mm-hmm. But he does that to such a degree that it tricks cornerbacks and safeties. Like, it's wild. It's stuff that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, Chase's route running is phenomenal. But I mean, if we look at like that matchup though versus Kupp and Awuzie, I mean. That's far more competitive than Kupp, and so I'm not sure what the Bengals are going to do to keep a cap on Cooper's performance, but hope they think of something.
At what point do you just they have so many weapons though, but at what point do you just say, hey, we're going to put a linebacker and a corner on him? You know, at what point do you just double team Cooper Kupp?
I mean, obviously, what teams have been doing up until this point hasn't been effective enough, so desperate times call for desperate measures. If that's what it takes to get a handle on Cooper Kupp, then that's what it takes.
I mean, what does he have? Like over 2,200 yards the whole season?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's something absolutely ridiculous.
By the way, he's repping Yakima. That's Eastern Washington.
Eastern Washington University, baby.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, let's go. That's our boy from Eastern Washington. Yeah. Except for anyway, man. Okay, so we talked about the O-line. We talked about Jamar Chase versus Jalen Ramsey. Okay, Joe Burrow, Matt Stafford. Who do you think is better in this matchup, and who do you think wins this game? To be honest,
I give the slight edge to Burrow in that matchup. I mean, Stafford obviously has the experience benefit over Burrow. But, I mean, Burrow's just been proving everyone wrong at every step of the way. I mean, the Bengals weren't supposed to be in the Super Bowl this year. No one thought it was even plausible. But here they are. And, I mean, if Burrow were to win the Super Bowl, he'd be the first player to ever win the Heisman National Championship and a Super Bowl, and he's about to do it all within 3 years. I think Burrow's the real deal, and I think that Stafford will unfortunately not be taking his first Super Bowl home on Sunday.
As everybody said, they're both super likable guys. And we had this discussion before we were recording, but the Bengals might be the coolest team we've seen.
Swaggiest team in the league for sure.
What, like the 95 Falcons or something like that? What was that? 91 Falcons. So that's when like they had MC Hammer on the sidelines with them, and they had like Jerry Glanville and Deion Sanders was a rookie, and he looked so dope. And I don't know, it was just a fun time to be a Falcons fan. Right now, it's a great time to be a Bengals fan. You have so many cool players in your team. I mean, and such a fun team too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean like so the Cardiac Kids back in the day. You know, now they're Joe Burrow, and I don't know what to call them. I don't know what to call them. I don't know what to call the Bengals as a nickname, to be honest. But I mean, they come back from scores that it just doesn't make sense. They shouldn't. They shouldn't win those games, and they do. And Joe Burrow keeps his cool. Jamar Chase obviously runs his routes great. The defense does what it's supposed to do. And it's a blast to watch.
It is such a confident team too.
Yeah,
Every single player on that team is so confident.
I didn't
in their
mention
own skill
it.
set.
You said it. He said it earlier. Money McPherson, right?
Money McPherson. My final score prediction for the game, by the way, everyone's dying to know. I got 35-38 Bengals. Money McPherson at the buzzer, going to hit a 47-yard field goal to win it all.
That's a good. Okay, if you get that exactly right, man,
It's on tape.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
47-yarder. I think so. Okay, my heart says Bengals. I want to say Bengals very badly. I want to say Bengals like 41 to like 31, something like that. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. But truly, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the real result will be probably the Rams 34-27 over the Bengals, of course. I think they just have too much star power to handle. I think that defensive line is too deadly. I think their defensive backfield is great. Yeah, I think they're so talented, and they have so much on the line that if they lose here and now, then there's no point going forward because they've literally put all their chips in the middle. So yeah, so one more time, let's get your score one more time.
I got 35-38 Bengals. Money McPherson from 47 yards.
47
hammering
yards.
it in.
And I got the Rams 34-27.
And
so
a bit of a superstitious stat too. The home teams are undefeated in the Super Bowl. Anytime that it's been a home team playing in the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl this year is in LA, undefeated. But if someone's gonna do it and make some more history,
do you know the record of that?
I don't know offhand.
It's 1-0.
1-0.
Yeah, it's the Bucks. The Bucks last year.
Well, then that superstition probably only goes so far
We'll
as
see,
it goes. But I mean, let's see.
Hey, Danny, thanks for coming on, man. That was fun talking about this game's gonna be so fun.
It's gonna be so sick. I'm pumped.
Yeah, me too, man.
Everyone wins with the Super Bowl.
Everybody does win with the Super Bowl. I mean, and like we said, as fans, we just want to see a great game, to be honest. Danny, thank you for coming on the show, man. Like I said, I had a blast talking ball with you, and I think that we had some good discussion about the game.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. And so thank you for watching this episode. This was our preview of the Super Bowl coming up. So we'll see you next week when we recap the Super Bowl. This has been the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt.